We've got a lot to talk about. Joining us now for more of the top political headlines of the week is WGN's political analyst, Paul Lisnek.
There's always a lot to talk about every week.
Always a lot to talk about. We were here on Tuesday night listening to the State of the Union. I'm wondering now, days into it, what has come out of it? What has been the reaction?
So the president is on the road and he's hitting various cities. And, you know, what came out of the State of the Union, I think, a couple of things. Number one, he focused primarily on economic concerns. So whereas Republicans are not happy with how he's handled the border and some of those issues, he didn't spend a lot of time on that. He focused on those things that he has something to tout. And of course, I think his greatest moment, we talked about it on Tuesday night, was just getting the Republicans who jeered and booed him to essentially agree they will not bring down Social Security or Medicare.
Turned out they were a good foil there, right?
In some ways, that looked like it wasn't in the script, but the question was it was planned. And by the way, the reason that becomes so important moving forward is because the debt limit comes up in the beginning of June. So the question is, what is there for anybody to give in on? Because when you take off Social Security, Medicare, military, because Republicans won't want to give up military, you're only left with about 15% discretionary spending. There's no major cuts in there.
It did put President Biden sort of in this role of being the hero to protect entitlements like Social Security and Medicare.
Well, that's the role he's wanting to take on. Now, in fairness, Republicans would look and say, you know, we don't want to take those down. Why would you? Don't accuse us of this. You're lying about that.
Them, though.
Well, and of course, what you've seen in a lot of more liberal media this week has been Rick Scott and Mike Lee from Utah, and all the times that these folks who are saying, I don't want you to do anything about it, all the statements they've made. Mike Lee, for example, from Utah, who said we need to uproot Social Security by the roots and get rid of it. So these comments have been made. The bottom line is, no, there's not enough votes in the Republican Party to do anything about that, but there's a few, and that's what politics is, and that's what Joe Biden will focus in on, those few people who actually have said something.
Another big headline that we're always talking about, it seems like, classified documents, right? And today, the Trump camp, they handed over some documents and some information. What's in it and why is it important?
Well, we don't know what's in it yet, but one of the reasons it's important is, first of all, they've said before they've handed everything over. So why are you finding more?
Right.
And secondly, this is after the FBI searches and all of that, so it's going to raise some questions. I don't think that story goes away quite yet as to why you were finding it and where. But another concern is that they also found a laptop which had documents on it, which means there's been some kind of transfer, and part of these were in the possession of an aide. Well, that in some ways is a bigger deal than a president saying, these are my documents, I've got them, because now it shows he's given them to somebody else. That's certainly going to raise a lot of questions and more work for the independent counsel.
Federal agents were also at Mike Pence's, the former vice president's home in Indiana, searching for more documents for a number of hours. And we got word that he has been subpoenaed for his role in the January 6th insurrection and what transpired that we're still learning about.
Let's take them one by one. With regard to the documents found, there's some who believe, now they're going to have a special counsel for him too. Right. But here's the thing. The special counsel rules basically are employed when you think there is a crime committed. And there's really no indication here that Pence was doing. I think most people, whether you know the guy or not, would say this is all just an error. It was unknown. We could learn something else, but I don't think so. So I don't think you see a special counsel yet unless he runs for president and announces that. Then Merrick Garland has to level out the field. With regard to his subpoena on the January 6th issue, that actually is a big deal. One reason is because you don't get to the level of Mike Pence until you're beginning to wrap things up. It's the way prosecutions work. You work your way up, and he's pretty up. So then the question is, well, will he cooperate? He certainly didn't cooperate with January 6th, but DOJ is not the January 6th committee. And so he doesn't have the arguments here that he had with distribution of power and separation of power that he had last time around. Will he fight it? Probably will. Even former President Trump may step in and try and fight it. They'll lose those arguments because there have also been a lot of Pence assistants and staff who've already testified. And so there's nothing to be claiming executive privilege here over, but it will slow things down a little bit, but I think it'll happen fairly quickly.
Before we go, let's talk about local, the mayor's race. Some key endorsements this week. One that struck me was Pat Quinn endorsing Chuy Garcia. And the
Mike
meaning, the meaning of that. Why is that important, the Quinn endorsement?
Yeah, so first of all, in many ways, Quinn and as I said, but Mike Quigley also endorsed Chuy Garcia. So, one of the upsides or downsides of Garcia, depending on your point of view, is his ties to sort of the political groundwork of the state. And so there he is tying into some, stalwart figures in this state. It's going to be a good news for some people who like Pat Quinn and love Mike Quigley and want to stand behind them. And of course, for others who say we need a change, we need something different, then you're going to look in another direction.
And it's been a challenging week for Paul Vallas. We're out of time, but who's on the show this weekend?
So Paul Vallas, by the way, the residential thing is not
It's
going to be a
done,
problem.
yeah.
It's going to be done. So Fritz Kagi, the assessor, is on my show this weekend because I wanted to explore that and talk more about Jenna Barnes'
Property
great story on
taxes.
Pilsen. And also joining me will be Raja Krishnamurthy to talk about the China balloon and all of that. So we'll get into all of that
Woo,
this Sunday
that's a
morning at
lot.
9 o'clock. I'll call and wake you up.
Oh, okay. My alarm's set for
Oh, that's
your
right.
show.
Well, you got a kid. You're up.